This is a supercut of every major character that I've drawn from the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So sit back and relax because this is going to be a long one and I hope you enjoy. The Super Mario Galaxy movie trailer just dropped a couple days ago and I thought it'd be a perfect time to draw Bowser Jr. in 4 incredibly different styles. And today we have cartoon, realistic, pixel, and the regular style. Let's start off with the cartoon style. I will say one of the cool things that I loved in the premiere is Bowser getting in touch with his artistic side. But all kidding aside, I really did love the way the trailer came out. And for those of you who haven't noticed already, yeah, my voice is, well, it's a little banged up. I'm kind of getting over a cold and it really stressed my throat. And so if I sound a little wonky, now you know why. So I'm going to kind of keep talking a little bit minimalistic here. As you can see, this is a cartoon style. We're going to keep it simple with bold colors and only a two-tone cell shading, which is basically a flat matte color and then a highlight or a shadow to delineate the depth of the character. And before we get too far in this video, if you're a fan of art or if you're a fan of Mario like I am, then please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on another video. With some last minute shadows and highlights, we're going to add nice bold outlines across the whole thing to finish up the whole concept of the cartoon effect, which is basically to give it that 1990s, 1980s cartoon style feel. And to me, this version of Bowser really looks like he would fit in well in the TMNT universe. I mean, I could just definitely see him fighting the Ninja Turtles. With the cartoon style complete, we're going to now transform him into the pixel effect. Now basically what this is we're going to bring him into the retro style of the early 80s and early 90s pixel style of video game and design. Now just because something is a pixel image doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have to have depth or look recognizable. Yeah, the early 80s of Mario didn't look as great, but then when we look at things like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger on the SNES, they looked pretty awesome for the amount of pixels that they were able to create and move in space. The hardest part about this particular effect is trying to dissect how big you want the pixels to be and where you want to coordinate the colors to make it still look like the three-dimensional object. You don't want it to just look like random color blobs. You want to still give it some three-dimensional effect by adding a shadow here or there, but this is all up for your own personal interpretation, like how far do you want to push it. For me, I wanted to give more of an homage to the early games of the NES where there was very little pixels, so that's why I left it as big blobby pixels. But if you wanted to see a little bit more, let me know. Maybe I'll do a smaller version where it's just Bowser Jr. in a more high-def pixel version. Last pixels complete, as now we're going to move on to the regular style. And what's the regular style? Well, that's just Bowser Jr. without his Wonder Power. I like how they threw the homage to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which came out in 2023 in this movie, and I want to see how they're going to incorporate that in this movie as well, because we saw both Junior and Wonder in the same thing, so it's going to see this cool transformation and how this story gets evolved throughout. For this section, I didn't go too heavy into detail. I basically wanted to keep it semi-realistic, but to kind of give it its own little flair. I really just wanted it to look like Bowser Jr. in a cartoon style, but with a little bit more detail. I didn't want it to be flat, but I didn't want it to be too three-dimensional because I didn't want it to take away from the realistic side, which is coming up next, and I think you're absolutely going to love how detailed it all came out. In total, this whole piece came out to about 6 hours, and it was actually really fun. And if this video gets 1,000 likes, then I will absolutely do Rosalina before the movie. Last and surely not least, we are going to do the realistic side. And for this, I want it to look exactly as how we saw the clips in the movie. So how are we going to achieve this? It's going to be a multifaceted way. We're going to add lots of layers of color pencil on top. And then we're going to finish off with paint pens and some alcohol markers here and there to differentiate colors. But because it's such a fluid and metallic look to the character, we're pretty much going to stick with color pencils and paint pens, and we're going to balance them back and forth to get these really smooth, radiant textures. Now, to give my voice just a little bit of rest, kick back, relax, and just watch as all this coolness unfolds. One quick tip, don't press too hard with colored pencils. Basically, you want to make sure that you give the ability to blend. So you want to add your layers of color over the top before you press it down and basically blend out the color. A good tip is always work gently in layers and sharpen your pencil. As you can see, you gotta sharpen the pencil. But in all seriousness, you want to make sure that you do work gently to add in all those colors and textures. You want to make sure that they have reds, blues, greens, and yellows all throughout. It gives a nice harmonious feel to your color pencil drawings if you don't just do purple, black, and white and then try and make it three-dimensional. That'll give it like a plasticky feel, but it won't give it any life. See, like with the green that was in the mask, it might not be the natural color because it's black, but because of all the reflective highlights around it, the green is what pops up and it gives it a more realistic feel. As you can see with the hands, because they have a metallic look, you're going to see purples, blues, reds, little yellows and greens. That's what gives it that life, that little pop of vitality. Once again, if you like the way this looked, and if you're still with me, then please do me a favor, smash that like button and subscribe button so you'll never miss out on another piece, and let me know what side was your favorite. Thanks for sticking with my terrible voice throughout this whole video. I do apologize. Hopefully I'll get better soon. And as always, folks, I will see you all in the next video. And if this video gets 1,000 likes, then I will absolutely do Rosalina before the movie. And because of your 1,000 likes, we are going to draw Rosalina in 4 different styles. And we're going to start off with the realistic style. You might be thinking to yourself, well, why start off realistically? Well, there's a specific reason for that. This was all done on my live stream. One of the beauties of doing a live stream is that, one, I get to communicate with all of you, and I had hundreds of people coming in and out throughout the live, which was in its own right, but I was actually able to take that video footage and I'm able to now break it down into a full-length video for you where I can kind of go over the art process. But if you want to hear more of my thoughts about how and why I create all of the things, you can go back and watch the 2-hour-long video. Might not be for everyone, but now you got 8 minutes where I can kind of get the entire version of Rosalina in a more digestible version. But before we get too far into this video, if you do like seeing Mario characters and you want to see Rosalina or Bowser Jr. or any other character, then please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It lets YouTube know you really like the content and helps me out along the way. Now, I did go into a lot more detail about how I draw hair, but for a quick refresher course, one thing that I do love to consider whenever I'm drawing hair is to think of it in the 3 tones. midtones, highlights, and shadows. And when you break them down to those three structures, it's a lot easier to digest. If you try to just draw each individual hair right off the bat, you're going to find that it's going to be a lot harder for you to draw the whole image. But if you break it into three little chunks and then divide it into midtones, highlights, and shadows, you're going to see that you're actually going to be able to figure out where all of these break down in the shapes that you're trying to apply. So as you can see here, when the hair flows out, I want to make sure that the hairline has all these bends where the shadows are. Where it's going to crease in, I want to make sure it has all these little shadows. It's all these little subtle things, but if you take the time to study them, it'll be a lot easier in the end. I didn't want to change the overall image of Rosalina too much. So as you can see, the hair structure is pretty much the same. In fact, the pose is going to stay pretty much the same throughout as well, because I just didn't want to change it too much. If I made this realistic and I changed the ear, and then I changed the silhouette on the Bowzette, and I changed the craft completely, then it would look almost unrecognizable as an image overall. So because of the features of everything, I wanted to still kind of look and feel like Rosalina at the end. And we're finishing up here with the staff, and you have to make sure that it looks and feels right. Because if you just draw like a quick little star, it's not going to resonate correctly. You want to make sure it feels and fits right with the character. So I really wanted to over-exaggerate the highlights and the shadows and let the color kind of just show through. By doing this, I think you get a much more recognizable image as three-dimensional and not just a simple little cartoon star. Just adding some little hairs that we're going to throw across the face, and we're going to call this side complete as we now move on to Bowzette. And Bowzette isn't actually a canonical character, though she was created as an internet meme in 2018. She became kind of a fan favorite because it's like this unique spin on Koopa and Princess Peach merged into one. And if you've seen several of my shorts, you'll know that I kind of love these mashup characters. So it's kind of funny, but also it's just a character that people really seem to love. All jokes aside, it is a really cool silhouette to draw, and at this point I had to show my chat just how many markers I have. This is my 240 set. So I asked them which colors I should choose, because, well, there's a lot to choose from. And I wanted to also showcase specifically that, well, one, my markers were starting to die here. But two, you don't need all of the best markers to create the best quality images. These are great quality markers for what they are, but they are also not a brush tip. They were a regular chiseled and pointed nib. So sometimes you don't get the same level of control as you do with a brush tip. But I always recommend that if you do have brush tips, to highly use them, because you can see the difference with the layering here. It just, with the bottom half, makes everything so much easier. Just finishing up with a nice thick bold outline across the whole thing to give it more of a cartoon feel, and then we are going to head on over into the cracked effect. And what is the cracked effect? Well, it's an effect that basically makes Rosalina look like a cracked stone statue. Except we're going to add the color in, and we're going to make it nice and bright and vibrant, just like the character is, but we want it to basically look like as if she has been cracked into several pieces or has several limbs missing due to age, time of stone just being withered away. If you're new to my channel, I do like to try to take a lot of the classic styles that you might see out there, glitch, drip, and some of the other effects out there, and try and give it more of a little artistic upbeat. Also, I love trying to create new and exciting different styles. The best part about this effect is you can add as much or as little detail as you want. So here I'm going to add a little bit of 3-dimension, not too much because I want to kind of match the Bowzette. I want a little bit of shading, but not too much that it overpowers the image and you kind of get taken away from what the effect is supposed to be, and basically we want to see all those nice little spiderweb cracks. If we add too much detail, you might not see all those nice little spiderweb cracks. And similarly to like the rest of the piece, you can add as much or as little cracks as you want. So for me, I'm going to add a fair amount because I really wanted to make it look like it's nice and broken and beaten up, and it's the only way to kind of showcase that. But now we're going to head on over into the anime style. And for this, I took a poll on my channel, and all of you decided that you wanted to see me transform Rosalina into Demon Slayer. Now, this was a really complicated redraw, so I went over several iterations in my head and live on stream, but ultimately I decided to settle on the Insect Hashira Shinobu, and I think it actually fits really well when I go over the overall size and shape of the face, because it was a hard redraw. Several times you're going to see me here just erase everything away, just because it kept looking a little off. And maybe it's because the neck wasn't matching up or the face was a little too big, but because this was going to be the main forerunner, I wanted to make sure that all the proportions were correct. But by the time that I was finished with the overall drawing, I was extremely satisfied with the image that we have. It just came down to the inking afterwards, and that is where you need to really study the anime that you're drawing, because Demon Slayer has a very unique inking style. They use different line weights and line variances, especially around the eyes. There's not a lot of similarity in any other anime that I can relate to, but they do have a very beautiful and very unique and very liveliness to their lines. There's lots of movement in the way they draw their lines. In the future, let me know if this is something that you guys and gals want to see more of when I draw an anime character for you to see a specific design. Whether it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or Jujutsu Kaisen, anything that you might want to see. If there's a specific art style, let me know in the comments. But most importantly, let me know what you think of this overall design. Let me know what is your favorite character, what were you most excited for, and as always, thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Who is this? Yoshi.
Yoshi is one of the most beloved characters going back all the way to the early 90s when he made his debut in Super Mario World. But today we draw him in 4 different styles. Let's start off with the pixel effect. As you can see, we're taking a little bit of a different approach with the pixel effect. I don't want this to look like the early Mario games. I want this to look like close to what you would see in Super Mario World, where you kind of get that upscale pixel art. So how I'm going to use this particular pixel section is by using the broad section of the markers to create those nice lines that are representative in the pixel style, but I'm also going to use the black outline to give it that cool pixel artifact without having to draw in thousands of little squares. I just didn't want to have to sketch them out. I wanted to kind of have it be a little bit more of an artistic feel. Just because I'm going with this simple style does not mean that I'm not thinking about how all of the angles and the colors do fit together. I am trying to add some shape and some dimension. But let me know what you think, because honestly I kind of like the way it looks. It really does look like that old school gaming vibe. But now let's transform him into a dinosaur. And for the dinosaur section, I was thinking about this section in the trailer. Did I get you at the jump scare? Did I? Come on, you can let me know in the comments. But ultimately, I wanted to have kind of a cartoon feel. I don't want it to be as round and as cherub as Yoshi is. I really want it to feel like a physical presence of a dinosaur, but in more of a cartoon 3D feel. Kind of a combination of both. I am going to add a little bit of coloring than I normally would. I didn't want to just do a complete cartoon style. I feel like that just wouldn't really work overall, because I just feel like I've done the cartoons so much and just didn't want to have to do it again, honestly. I wanted to try something fun, try something new, and he is a dinosaur, so let's make him into a dinosaur. Here's a fun fact. This is the actual concept art that Shigeru Miyamoto made in the late 80s when he was coming up for a concept design for Yoshi. But honestly, I just think it looks a lot like a chocobo from Final Fantasy. Another cool thing about Yoshi's design is that a lot of people credit his love of horseback riding to why Mario wanted to basically have that saddled character as a sidekick. But now here's some art tips for you. A lot of times you're going to see me use the side of the pencil right here with the colored pencils. And that's because I'm going to use the paper's grain to basically simulate all the little scaly textures that a lizard or a dinosaur would have. It's kind of like an easy cheat code where you don't have to then sit and draw in every single little nook and cranny. You can kind of just quickly speed draw it in, and it has a nice, really rough, cool texture to it. But now that our dinosaur is fully complete, let's make him look realistic. Except, maybe not realistic. We're going to make it look like the movie. And there's a specific reason for that. Yoshi is incredibly iconic. If I just made it into another lizard or dinosaur, then it wouldn't look like Yoshi. That's hence why I kind of just made the dinosaur make that semi-realistic. But this, we're going to push this values and all these colors to make this thing look exactly like the movie. I want this thing to be unrecognizably different than what you will see in the movie. And that's where I want you people at home to let me know how close. Is this a W or an L? We're nearly at the halfway mark of this video, and if you're here so far, then please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. This whole section right here took me about an hour and a half, and it's one of my favorite realistic sides that I've drawn in a really long time, and not just because I'm a huge fan of the character, but just because textures can be very complicated. So they require a lot of patience, and sometimes that's where I fall off. So if you are with me and you do like this content, please, once again, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because it helps me out a lot and it lets YouTube know that you really like this content. So if you're having trouble with colored pencils, here's a really good tip. What I want you to do is work on the pressure that you apply. So all of this coloring that you're seeing me do is a series of very light pressure feathered down across the page. And I'm working gently in layers. I do not press the colored pencils hard almost at all. Only at the very end, when we're trying to blend things thoroughly, do we really press hard, because that's when we're going to flatten it, the image essentially. But if you're having problems basically blending color pencils, that is the best tip that I can give for you. Make sure that you're just working gently in tight little circles, and that is how you're going to get that smooth transitional colors across the page.
Three, two, one. Welcome to the machine.
One last little dusting off, and we're going to call this section complete as we now head on over to the horror side. The design for this was really unique, and what I mean by that is I didn't go for my traditional gore or over dramatized anything. In fact, I went almost realistic dinosaur, I really wanted to showcase the wounds, battles, big gnarly teeth. Horror doesn't necessarily mean bogus jump scare or something creepy on the screen. That is more of jump scare, but it's not what necessarily terrifies you. If you were to go outside and see a 60-foot tall Tyrannosaurus Rex charging towards you, that would be horrifying. And that is the essence of what I wanted to portray here. I wanted to showcase what a snarling, huge demon dragon lizard would look like that was battle-torn. And a lot of that was also just looking at alligators that have kind of gone through the rigor. So when I'm thinking up the concepts for what I'm drawing, I am looking up references of older alligators that are just big and kind of been through the wars of battles with other alligators. And that's kind of what I was going for, is just this big snarly lizard that, got a couple of scars across his face. Maybe the teeth are a little chipped away, and just extra details in the mouth and gum region that have been just kind of stood the test of time. It's these little subtle details that can really make something horrifying. And then this cracked egg with this big slurpy tongue, I just think it works really well. It just kind of brings everything in. You don't have to necessarily add everything to make it creepy.
System shut down.
The coloring wasn't as important for what I'm drawing. It's more about the drawing itself and using minimal color but lots of black shading to really just punch in the depth of the scene. And I really also wanted to draw your attention to the egg, and later you'll see why when I add in the pool of blood textures that kind of come out of the egg, because now you're trying to think to yourself, is that something that he did, or did he come out of that rotten egg? Whatever it was, you kind of have to think about it. What makes it that creepiness, that's what adds to that next level of horror. And just like that, Yoshi is complete. We have another piece done, so let me know what was your favorite section, and as always, I shall see you all in the next video. And just so you know, it's going to be Bowser Jr. Mario is the most recognizable character in gaming and has a legacy that's been spanning over 45 years when he first came out in Donkey Kong in 1981. And today we draw Mario as 4 different power-ups. This is a little bit different than what I normally do, so I'm going to give it a little bit of extra love, and today we're going to start off with the original. And what do I mean by original? This thing's going to look as close to the movie as I can possibly get it. What I want to achieve with this entire video is showcasing not only the 4 different suits, we're going to be drawing them as realistically as the movie or close to the movie would have it. Now, I have a really important question for the chat. Is this pencil too small?
It's not the size that counts, it's how you use it.
I am notorious for not wasting any art supplies, so I will use a pencil when it's down to the nittiest of gritty, and then I'll save it for my color pencil graveyard, because I have these few colored pencils that are just down to next to nothing. Fun little fact about Mario, that wasn't actually his first name. His first running name was actually Osan, which is a Japanese term for a middle-aged man. Other names that they would use are Mr. Video and Jumpman, until they finally settled on Mario, which was actually due to the name of Nintendo America's landlord. There is another reason why I really love not only the Mario games, but just drawing the Mario characters, and that's because they are a little slice of my childhood. When I was young, my father and my brothers and I would sit and play Mario for hours. After we finished our homework, before we'd go to bed, we would either start a game from scratch where we would play every single board, every single power-up possible, every single thing in Mario 3, or we would play the games and then kind of just use the flutes to zip through the end. It all depends upon what day of the week it was, but it's time that I will never ever get back, and I will always remember for the rest of my life, because it was just some of the most fun moments sitting there at like 9, 10, 11 o'clock, and my mom getting so aggravated about it was school, and me just sitting there as like a 10-year-old kid going, "Hold on, Mom, we're right at the end of Bowser, we're just about ready to win." She really didn't care, and we didn't really care, because it was that moment where we were going to beat the game. I know that we're a little far into this video, but if you can please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. It also lets YouTube know that you really like the content. And if you want to see me transform more of your favorite characters, then please, once again, do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Now let's talk a little bit about how I'm going to make this as realistic as I can. And that is basically by adding one base layer of color and then working over tones of warms or cools over the top, and that's how we're going to get that nice smooth blend. I am also not using a whole heck of a lot of pressure when you see me layering in these color pencils. A lot of it is actually very light work and then building up the layers, and that's how we get all those little sweet variations of color. As you can see, this is a lot of detail. And the reason why I wanted to do the original first is not just because it's the OG, but just because it's also going to be the most detailed and it's going to be the most recognizable that is Mario. There's going to be no variations in the suit. So I wanted to look as realistic as I can, pushing in all those values and all those subtle shades. So I also think it came out phenomenal. But it also took me the longest. As you can see with the runtime in this little section, I mean, it's just taking me that long. I think about 2 hours for this section, roughly. But in my opinion, it's all worth it. But let me know, is it worth this much time to put in for art? Are you an artist, or are you just a gaming fan that just loves to see the characters get reborn in a fun new way? Let me know, because sometimes people just look at a piece of art and say, you know what, it's just not worth it. But that's part of the journey, that's part of the struggle of art. Now that we have the original complete, let's head on over to the Fire Flower. And the Fire Flower is the first real power-up that we actually get. Yeah, you can call him Big Mario the first power-up because usually people hit it, but in general, the first real power-up, the first real move that we get to use in the original NES game was to shoot the fireballs at people. And the one thing that makes it really iconic is that there was really not a lot of games that did what Mario did at the time. You see, back in the day, before all the internet and everything else, when a lot of these games came out, that was it. That's what you were either playing for a while, or that's what you were playing for the weekend if you rented it at a store. And yeah, that's what we did. We rented games at a store for like a couple of days or a weekend, and that was it. That was the time that you had when you rented a game, because you really didn't buy games like you do today and just chew through them. They were just as expensive, if not more, back then. And when you played a game, you had to hope for the best. So when something like Mario came around and he had all these power-ups and all these other really cool things, a lot of games were just either side-scrollers or point-and-click. You know, it wasn't until games like Mario came along that you then had games like Mega Man just take it to another level. And it's just a little bit of nostalgia that you'll always remember. As I said earlier in the video, and it's part of the mini challenge, if you will, for what I'm creating here, is I want it to be as realistic as possible. Now, we're going to have to change the color around a little bit because he is the Fire Flower, so he's going to have those typical red pants and not the normal blue that he normally has. I will say I had to work on the boots quite extensively. I mean, probably was about a good half an hour, because for some reason they just, I don't know, sometimes when you're just drawing something it doesn't feel right and it doesn't fit. I think that's because half of the boot is chopped off, so you're trying to figure out angles and you're trying to figure out spatial relations of everything. but it's half a boot, so the foot just doesn't feel right, and I think that's why. Also, I think I went over a lot of my undersketch with this really dark brown, and then had to work a lot of light colors over it, so I kind of lost a lot of the details on the bottom foot, and I was trying to like redraw on top of it with colored pencil, so it took a while for me to actually look at it and feel like the sketch that I did underneath was representable. Before we finish up this section, I have another important question to ask you. Who is your favorite Mario character? Drop that in the comments. If you got this far, drop your favorite Mario character in the comments. For me, I'm always partial to Toad and Luigi, but that's just me. An important tip for color pencils, always brush your color pencils when you're done coloring with them. It helps a lot. Now, let's get on to the star power. And for the star power, I'm going to make it a little bit more of a cartoony look. But overall, I just did not like the way this particular piece came out. I think that's because I was trying two different things at once. By the end of it, I was happy, but it just, I don't know, there's something about it that made me want to do this. But even though I don't like it, at the end of the day, I did still kind of like it, and that's okay. I think it's just because I tried to do too many things at once. I was like, oh, let me make it look realistic. Oh, let me pull this really cool flower effect over the top. Oh, let me make this little star power cool thing. And then I was just trying to add all of the elements at once, and just, you know, for me, it didn't work. I think this is the moment. Right when I started to add the paint pens on this, I'm like, oh no, I'm trying to add too many of the wacky highlights that come in when he goes into the little star power mode. So it's not my favorite. It's not the worst thing I've ever done, but I was just a lot more hopeful for the piece overall. But hey, listen, to each their own. Maybe some people will like it, and maybe we'll now head on over to the Tanooki effect. And the reason why I think that I chose this is because it really was a staple in a lot of the early Mario games, but it was the people's favorite suit, really. When I was doing research for this thing, the amount of people that loved this particular suit, not only in the movies but in the games, and the fact that it's been around since Super Mario Bros. 3 just speaks volumes. The biggest challenge here with this particular section wasn't so much the coloring, but more or less the drawing itself. And that's because I wanted to make sure that the hair matched up and the hat matched up with the wool cap that he has. Everything else kind of lands the same, but if you don't draw it, it'll look kind of funky. And what I mean by that is when the tight fit suit fits over Mario's head, if it doesn't land right where the hat is, it's gonna just look off, and also the ears are squished down, so you have to compensate for that. And then it's basically then the coloring that becomes the problem. But first is the design of the drawing and sketching it out. When I'm coloring this, to get the effect of all the little fuzz of the fur that's on the suit, I'm going to have to use the side of my coloring pencils, and that's where I'm going to get all the little subtle textures and nice little play of color and light. We're just about wrapping up this video, but I have one last question for you, and that's, who would you like me to transform next? I have Bowser coming up, but after that, it's all in your hands, as there will be a poll out later today. So I want to know, do you want to see Toad, Fox McCloud, do you want to see Princess Peach, or do you want to see Donkey Kong? Let me know in the comments, because I'm always eager to see who you like to suggest. This drawing has been an absolute blast, and not only that, it's been a great little trip down memory lane and basically sharing with you a fun little childhood memory. And what are some of your childhood memories playing video games? Because not only was I playing Mario, but I was also a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. But this has once again been a blast. Let me know what is your favorite style that I did here today, and as always, I'll see you all in the next video.
Hi, Dad.
Junior?
Bowser Jr. is the main protagonist in the Super Mario Bros. Galaxy movie, and we draw him today in 4 different styles. We're going to start off first with the cartoon effect. If you're new to this channel, my name is James, and I love recreating all of these different characters in all these different styles. So if you love seeing your favorite characters transformed in fun new ways, then please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot, also lets YouTube know that you really love this cool kind of art content. Now, let's get on to the cartoon effect. Basically, we're keeping it simple and smooth. We want the colors to be nice and flat across and even. I'm going to come out right now and admit it. The reason why I chose the bottom left side for this particular section is because, well, I'm lazy and there's a lot of white, and that way I don't have to color a whole heck of a lot. But another reason why I chose the bottom left, all jokes aside, is because it has all of the colors that we're going to be using in this particular section represented. It's got the steel, it's got the green, it's got the orange, and you basically know the color palette that we're going to be working with for the rest of the piece. Quick tip, whenever you're considering doing a cartoon effect, you either have to say to yourself, are you going to do it flat and even with one color, or are you going to do cell shading like I'm doing here? I like to do cell shading, mainly because it adds a little bit more of an artistic flair. You do whatever your heart desires. Let's just throw some outlines and we're going to call this section complete. But now let's make Bowser Jr. drippy. And no, I'm not talking about giving him a little bit of drip. No, we're gonna save that maybe for another video. Maybe for the Bowser video, or maybe not, we'll have to see. But we're going to make it look like a big old melted ball of wax. We're gonna make the eyes drips, the lips drip, and it's just gonna be really cool. It kind of plays into the cartoon effect, and it kind of gives it a nice little extra flair. All the pieces, I want them to kind of fit as a cohesive piece. I want them to feel like they work together. And this is kind of like a really cool effect that does just that, in my opinion. It makes everything just feel combined so far. It doesn't feel disjointed. If I did a pixel next to a really smooth cartoon, it just wouldn't fit right. See, sometimes when I'm just doing these, I'm not just doing like, oh, let me do a glitch because it's a glitch, or let me do a neon because if it's a neon. I want them to all feel like they belong in some regard.
Shut down.
Now, if you want to take your drip effects to the next level, I will recommend do add shadows and do add highlights, especially when you're trying to get those nice, really cool 3 dimensions represented. Don't just slap on a highlight because there's a highlight. And also, when you're using your liners, make sure you add a thicker bold line on some sides and then a very thin line on other sides. That's what's really going to give it the accentuated drip across the page. Now that we've added a whole bunch of drips, let's add a whole heck of a lot of dots. And what I mean by dots specifically, this is my homage to Impressionism, specifically late/post Impressionism. I am a huge fan of the entirety of the movement, but this section is my little homage to one of my favorite paintings, which is Le Grand Jatte by Georges Seurat. Now, it has a much longer name. Some people know it as the Island of Le Grand Jatte, but it's one of my favorite pieces. It looks like it's captured in time, but also through a cartoon lens, and he does so by layering hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dots. Very much like how a printer works. When we use our printers, it basically shoots out tens of thousands of micro dots on a piece of paper, and that is how you get something that can sometimes print out photorealism in seconds. It does the same thing, except with Seurat's work, you'll see that there's just all these micro dots across the page, and that's how he gets these really cool images that just take to life in front of you. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, as you're going to see here, I worked painstakingly, about an hour to an hour and a half of just layering down hundreds and hundreds of dots across this page. And it was primarily done with just paint pens and alcohol markers. And yeah, I did cheat here and there, but that's because I was then going to layer over hundreds of more little dots, just constantly dabbing with the tip of a pen. Now that we got all those little dots out of the way, we're going to try and make this one as realistic as possible. But it comes with a caveat. Much like the Yoshi video, I'm going to try and make this as close to the movie as possible. But before we go too far into the realistic section, I have to ask you a quick question. Did you see the other Bowser drawing that I did several months ago when the trailer released? If you haven't, I will put it in the description to this channel because I think you're gonna love that Bowser Jr. drawing because it was really cool. It was also his other style, so it was a little bit different. I added a couple different things. I added my style, which is something that I have a little bit of fun with, which is kind of a mixture of impressionism and realism all in one fun little package. So if you like that and you like this, then you'll love both. Now, as a quick tip for those of you who are struggling with realism or struggling with trying to get anything to look semi-three-dimensional, a quick tip that I always add for the realism is make sure you add a base layer down across the page and work from there. Now, there are two schools of thought when it comes to doing something realistic. If you're in the beginner/intermediate phase, try this. Try working just the blacks and the whites on that singular color. So if it's red, then try just work with black and white and try and give it that three-dimensional bend. If you're more of an advanced artist, try to add more of the color wheel into play. So if you have some reds, add some blues and some browns in the dark sections, add some yellows in the lighter sections, and that will give you more balance of colors. Don't just strictly work with black and white. As you get better at being an artist and you're learning values and shades, shy away from that more and add more color, and that'll give it that little extra flair of realism. And now we are at almost the 8-minute mark of this video, and if you're still with me, I have a very important question to ask y'all. Who is your favorite Mario character? And are you like me? Are you excited to see Fox McCloud in the video? And should I draw Fox McCloud in 4 different styles? Let me know all those in the comments, so that way I can know who made it here and what those styles that you liked are. As a little cheat code that I always like to say for the leathery texture of Bowser Jr.'s skin, what I'm going to use is the side of the pencil here. And by using the side of the pencil, that's how we're going to keep the grain of the paper to get all those little subtle textures and variants within the drawing. So that way, when I layer over and I try and give it that nice little 3D look, I can keep all those textures down and I don't have to draw all those little painstaking scales. The Mario characters are always pretty near and dear to my heart. It's what I kind of grew up with. So this series is just going to be a real blast from the past, but just something in my wheelhouse. It's something that I absolutely love to do. I love to just draw these characters as a whole. So thank you so much, really, for being here for these long videos. I've been trying to add more tutorial content, so if it finds value with you, please do me a favor. Once again, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, because these are the kinds of videos that I want to do. Little inspirational, little tutorial, but also showing you how to have fun with redesigning all these fun characters. I mean, it was an absolute blast. Just these last second little bit of details and boom, this is complete. What is your favorite side? Not gonna lie, I'm kind of partial to the drip, but maybe you like a different side. Maybe you like the dots or the cartoon or the realistic. Let me know in the comments, and as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Bowser is the biggest nemesis for Mario in the games and in the movies, and today we draw him in 4 different styles. Let's start off with the cartoon effect. My name is James from James Kirsch Art, and if you're new to this channel, I love taking classic characters and transforming them in fun new ways. So if you like art, or if you like gaming and you like seeing this kind of art, then please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. For the cartoon section, I didn't have a specific cartoon setup in mind. Essentially what I was going for was just basically smooth, bold layers across the entire image so that it can be recognizable as Bowser, and you kind of get an idea for the color scheme that we're going to be using throughout the drawing. Fun fact, Bowser's first original name was Boss Creeper, and this was the artwork that was originally used. I mean, it's just a concept sketch, but it just, when you look at what that turned into and what we have now, it's quite hilarious. I also forewent the pixel effect, mainly because I didn't want to have every one of these be a pixel or a polygon effect. I could do pixel for just about any character in the Mario series, so I just decided to do a cartoon to break up the monotony of the piece. A quick tip for everyone: if you are having problems with your paint pens and you're seeing that they're a little too streaky, here's 1 of 2 things that you can do. First is make sure your pens are well shaken before you actually apply them. This goes for both brush nibs and regular Posca pens. You want to make sure that you basically move the fluid around and that you prime the tips of your pens. 2, work slowly and overlap about half of your brush strokes between. This will get that smooth coverage so that way you won't have as many streaks. If you do still have some streaks, then go in the opposite direction very lightly and you'll wipe them all out and you'll have a nice smooth piece. We're going to finish up with some last black lines across the whole thing to make it look nice, neat, and smooth, and we're going to head on over to the neon effect. Now, one thing that I do love to do with my neon effects is I like to do a nice bold redrawing of the entire thing. This serves 2 things. 1, when we add the black here, it will make sure that when we see everything over the top, it's easier to trace. You don't have to trace, I'm just doing it to showcase how it's a little bit easier to trace. Then, when everything is dry, do a second layer across the whole thing. This will also be really pivotal when you're making the glow effect to make the colors nice, bright, and vibrant. When I do my glow effects, essentially what I want them to look like is one of those like vintage neon signs. I want them to really have a resonating glow. I don't add thick, bold outlines because I don't want them to look too cartoony. I want to have basically a thin white taper that you're seeing here, and I want that to have just a nice little bit of pop of white. This section is now complete, and up next we have the cracked effect. The cracked effect is basically an effect that I created that essentially what we wanted to do is make the image look like it's been cracked stone, like it's broken right through the page. And at the end, you're going to have this hollowed out, really cool stone cracked effect across the whole thing. What we want to achieve here is basically by drawing everything out and then tracing out the little areas that we want cracked, we can add a nice little outline across the whole thing where we want to have all the cracks taken out and then color in as much or as little as you like. That's why this is one of my favorite styles to do. That's because you don't really need to have a next level of artistic ability. You can do as much or as little as you want with this effect. So if you want to make it look more cartoony, keep it cartoony. If you want to be a little bit more realistic, put as much realism as you want into it. It's really up to the artist and the artist's level. So for me, I'm going to go with a semi-realistic approach. I'm going to keep a little bit of blending, but I'm not going to go too crazy because I really want to showcase the effect and not so much necessarily the coloring of it. And again, what you can do here is you can add as little or as many of the cracks as you want. That is, like I said, the beauty of this effect. You can make it as messed up and damaged as you want, or just keep it a little light like I am here. But what I do always add is a really thin gray around the whole thing. That gives it that recessed effect that it's basically being broken through. It's got some depth to it. Now, let's make this thing as realistic as we can. And if you are struggling with your realism, here's a good tip that I always like to say for all beginners. That is, start with all of your base layer colors down first. Now you might be thinking, well, why? I like to work with a midtone across the whole thing and then work my lights and my darks on top. One, it helps me see the whole image. That is something that I really want to stress for all beginner and intermediate artists. Work the whole image. Whenever you see a lot of artists online working like little eyeball and then working onto the eyebrow and then extending out, they've been doing art for a really long time. They kind of know where they're going. They may have even already graphed it out, so that way when they're just drawing it, they're basically looking onto their image to the side of them and then they're just working. They've been doing it for so long that they don't really need to work in little big areas. They can just kind of work the whole image however they want. But I'm going to tell you, work the image as one big piece and then break it down by sections. Because when you get the white off the page and you see the whole image, it makes it a lot easier to draw the whole thing. Now, as you can see, we're a little bit past the halfway mark and we're still just in the realistic side. Yeah, that's because this side's going to take exponentially longer than the rest of the piece combined. One, a lot of the designs were kind of easy to do. It's a cartoon, it's a neon, it's a crack. They're all kind of simple. There's not a lot really to add. It's just about making sure it looks kind of cool. With the realistic side, there are lots of textures here. That's the real goal and trickiness of Bowser. The hair takes a lot of time because it's like flowy and swoopy and you want to make sure that it sticks up right and kind of looks right. The scale textures, where we're going to go to next, they took me an exorbitant amount of time. I didn't draw each individual scale in. I feel like if I actually tried to sit there and draw like little semicircles or circles and kind of just rough them in, it would look kind of janky. So what I did instead was kind of just do a light swirl pattern across the whole thing in a light to medium green. And then I just basically bounced in different layers of greens and blues and dark browns and just interlaced them, and that's how I got the scale effect. I feel like if I just went for a 1-for-1, which was ever in the movie, and then just sat there and tried to find and measure out each little circle, it just would kind of lose the life and the quality of the character. See, that's why I try to work kind of quick. I try to kind of work with a bit of a speed because I really want to have that life in the character. And by doing so, I feel like it gives it that little bit of longevity. When you try and sit there and painstakingly just get every little microscopic detail, it looks like a photograph, but it looks still. It looks lifeless. That's just my opinion. I like working with different media whenever I do any kind of realism effects, mainly because with these paint pens and with also the black inks over the top, I can get really fine lines and really bright darks on top of colored pencil because of the waxiness of the colored pencil and the ink. It makes it actually just jump off the page. I absolutely love the way these horns came out, and the spikes as well. Mainly because you can really see and feel all the riveted textures in the horns. Like, he's been through so many battles and that they've got like little chips and little scrapes, and they feel almost like they belong on the character. They don't just feel like they've been plopped on his head. Sometimes with a lot of my artwork in the past, it's kind of felt like the hair is almost like a helmet, or the eyebrows are kind of just plopped on. Here, with the horns and the hair and everything, it looks like it's cohesive and it feels like it fits, and that's something that I sometimes messed up in the past, but with here, it came out really nice. I'm just loving the way these textures came out. With the skin, I'm keeping it kind of simple, similar to what I did with the green scales, except I'm working very, very softly, just to kind of get a slightly beveled texture. And then I'm going to rotate between yellows and yellowy brown colors and bounce in to get the shadows. But we're going to work very, very slowly and softly. We're going to work with tight concentric circles with very little pressure. That's how we're going to achieve that nice, scaly, leathery texture of the face. And if you are still with me at this point in the video, then please, once again, do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, but also please tell me, who is your favorite Mario character? Is it Mario? Is it Luigi? Bowser? Toad? Luigi? I said him again, I'm going to say him again, Luigi. I'll say him a third time, Luigi. Is it Yoshi, Princess Rosalina, or is it Princess Peach? Let me know down in the comments, because I always like to know who are the favorite characters out there and who people like to watch me draw, and it just kind of gives me incentive whenever I'm drawing these characters to kind of get an idea for who the chat likes, and so I always like to know whose favorite characters are who. I'm just completing these last little bits of scaly textures, and we're going to call this piece complete. I want to know, what was your favorite section in this video? Was it the cartoon? Was it the neon? Was it the realistic? Or was it the cracked? Let me know in the comments, and as always, I shall see you all in the next video.
Back away from the strange red plumbing man and nobody gets hurt.
Fox McCloud has finally made his appearance in Super Mario Galaxy, and we draw him today in 4 different styles. Let's start off with the anime effect.
A good death.
Yeah, I couldn't put it any better. That is anime in a nutshell. But the reason why I chose anime specifically is because I've been doing a lot of cartoon, but I wanted to have something that still feels like a good fit, but have to redesign it slightly. So I'm not just filling in just basically a bunch of color. And chat, did you guys know that there was an actual Star Fox anime created about 10 years ago? It was Star Fox Zero: The Battle Begins, and it was basically the intro to the game itself. And let me tell you something, by the looks of this thing actually looks really good. So with my anime design, I really want to emulate a lot of what we saw in that anime intro. And if I can find it, I will drop it in the description, because it's about 10 to 15 minutes long, and it's actually really good. Now, before we get too far into this video, I have a big favor to ask you. If you could please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. A lot of you actually watch my videos, but when it comes to it, not a lot of you actually subscribe to my channel. Only about 20% of you. So it would mean a lot to me if you can please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because it lets YouTube know that you like this content. When we talk about what makes anime anime, usually it's one of 2 things. One, the animation style has to come out of Japan specifically. But when it comes to the storytelling, it's a lot of adult-driven concepts, a lot of dark imagery. It's not like the fun DuckTales of Saturday morning cartoons. But the thing that makes it most distinct with its artwork is its concentration on color and line weight. Japanese artists have some of the greatest line art that I've ever seen, and their impeccable nature for consistent, smooth lines are what make anime so distinct as an art form. This is probably one of my favorite anime pieces that I have done on this channel, because it looks like Star Fox, but has all the essence of an anime drawing. But let me know, what do you think so far? I love this little green scouter effect because it made me think of Dragon Ball Z, but let me ask you something. How would you rate this on a scale from 1 to 9,000?
It's over 9,000!
Thank you, I appreciate the over 9,000. Now let's head on over to the notebook. One thing that I absolutely love about this style, and I have to give a huge shout out to Nick Moran because he was the one who originated this style. I don't like to do a style without basically telling you guys where it originated from. This style, yeah, it's a really cool nostalgia piece. The concept that you want to do, or the concept that you want to rather create, is that feeling of scribbling in a notebook in the middle of class. At least that's what it feels like for me. You know, you're taking notes, you're really not paying attention, just having fun doodling. And that's basically what I want to do here, is just get out a simple ballpoint pen and just doodle him in a pseudo notebook. I guess what I love most about this is not only just the simplicity, but like that fun nostalgia that it always, because it's been decades since I've stepped foot into a school or a college campus, and sometimes you just miss those subtle things of just chilling out in class and doodling or passing along notes to friends and stuff like that. It just, yeah, it gives back that little bit of nostalgia that I just can't bring back, but this is always fun to do. Nostalgia aside, now let's make them pixelated. And the reason why I chose pixelated first is, well, even though he's more popular in the polygon style, when he first came out with his original game in 1993 on the SNES, he was a little bit more pixels than polygons, even though they kind of integrated the early polygon style in that first game. Let me ask you though, what was your first foray into the game? Was it Star Fox on the SNES, or was it the most popular one, Star Fox 64 on the N64? Because that's the one that I first played and then went back and played the old one, only to find out they were exactly the same. They were the same game, just ramped up with new graphics and sound effects and everything else. Another reason why I brought the pixel art back specifically for this piece is, well, because a lot of people loved the pixels that I did for my Yoshi drawing, so let's just see how much people like this version, or do they like the other version better. I really like doing the pixel art this way. It requires a little bit more of an artistic hand, plus it kind of just shows the hand of the artist. You don't have to just map everything out into tiny little squares and then just color them in. You really have to think about where you're placing the colors prior to just drawing it out into those tiny squares. Now that Fox McCloud has become pixelated, let's make him realistic. Or I should say, how he is in the games and in the movie, because that's the closest representation to we have that's anything that's realistic. Now, you'll know that I've kind of broken my cardinal sin. Normally I'll say work the whole image, but I'm kind of working little chunks here in the very beginning, and that's because the suit has lots of texture. So I want to make sure that I kind of get it just right before I move on with the rest of the drawing. Now, here is my rant with the games, and it's not the problem with the games themselves, but it's with this character. Yeah, I despise Slippy. He is the most annoying piece of... Composure, gather yourself, you're a professional. So what I meant to say is that Slippy is the most annoying character because he will have no regard for his own life. 3/4 almost every single game I've ever played as Star Fox, he's leaping headlong into the enemies with like no regard for his life. And you're better off just letting him just die. Let him be the meat shield. Let him be the meat shield, because then, you know, you won't have to worry. But if you're good enough to keep protecting Slippy, at least you get really cool Falco comebacks.
What's Ligma? Slippy, no! Ligma balls!
Yeah, Slippy fell right into that one, but they all kind of fall into Falco's just really horrible jokes, but, you know, the child that I am still laugh at them today. So now, all jokes aside, how do we get this to make it look as realistically as we can? And yes, I said realistically, and I'm going to keep it that way because, well, it just sounds funny. But what we're going to do is basically burnish the paper, which is something I don't normally do ahead of time. I usually wait to the end. And what I mean by burnishing is by pressing really hard on the paper to flatten the image out. That's because I'm going to add tons and tons of little flicked hairs in there, and the best way to make it look like these soft feathery hairs is to have that thin layer of waxy color pencil down. See, after I kind of just layered in the basic shadow effects, I'm just going to then go over with all these little tiny micro flicks of reds, browns, a little bit of black, some blues, and a touch of green here and there. And that's how we're going to get all that nice fluffy coat that he has. But now you can kind of see why I worked the other sections first. And that's because, well, when I worked through the other sections to get them just right, when I put the hair textures down at the end, I want to be able to work little fine lines of hair over the top. If I kind of work the whole image, I would have a problem trying to work these really fine details of black and brown and white hairs of the fur coat over the red and the blue. So a good way for me to do that was just to get everything done first, and then I can work over the top, and it won't blend or bleed or smudge too much. You can see here what I mean by burnishing the paper. I apply that really thick layer of white color pencil down first, so that way when I just work with all these little feather strokes, you're going to get that nice little grayish coat for underneath the mouth and along the nose. I usually struggle with fur textures, so I actually did a little bit of research, and this was something that I think helped me a lot. I kind of practiced it on the side before I went ahead and did this, so I hope it helps you all out at home. And if it does, once again, please do me a favor, smash that subscribe button. I'm close to 250k, and I'd like to get to 250k before the end of April, but only you can help me do that, because we're just about ready to call this video a wrap. Let me know, what was your favorite section? Was it the anime, the pixel, the notebook, or the realistic? Thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you all in the next video. Today we're drawing Luigi from the new Super Mario Galaxy's movie in 4 different styles. And up first we have the cartoon effect. And for this, we're going to keep the color simple, smooth, and even all throughout. I'm not really looking to try and get this to be like the movie, but rather closer to the video game. Now, before we get too far into this video, if you could please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, helps me out a lot, and lets YouTube know that you love the content. Luigi has always been one of my favorite characters, and I really wanted to design him with the poltergust, because I just think it's more or less now become his persona, for lack of a better word. Like, it's just iconic now to him. And it's good to see that he actually has his own video game series separate from Mario. With any cartoon effect, you really gotta pay attention to the line art. If you're gonna make the lines thin, keep them thin throughout. If you're gonna keep them thick, make them nice and bold all throughout. Or you can always do a nice thick bold outline around the whole thing, but consistency is key. Up next we have Luigi. Now for me, Luigi is just a natural fit for whenever we're trying to draw Luigi, because he basically is a goo-like clone that Professor Egad made in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. And shout out to my subscribers during my premiere, because it was one of you, and honestly I'm sorry that I can't remember it, but if you remember, drop in the comments who it was that asked me to do a gummy bear style. And that got me kind of like thinking, well, Luigi is gooey, and gummy kind of looks the same, so in a future video, if you want to see me do a gummy bear style, which would look very similar to this, what do you think? Would you like to see a gummy bear style? Because I think that could be pretty cool. I want to make sure that this thing looks slick and shiny and also translucent, so you might see some lines, but that is by designed effect. We want to have that watery, drippy gooiness. But that does not mean it doesn't have darks. We're just not going to have an outline. We're going to punch in the darkest darks where we need, and also the whitest whites where we need it. And that's what's going to give it that nice, drippy, gooey effect. Very similar to the gummy bear. So once again, if you want to see me do the gummy bear, let me know in the comments. Just popping in these last little bit of highlights, and they are important, but we want to make sure that we blend them out softly. They are not strong highlights. We don't really just pop them in. From gooey, we're going to make them ghostly. And once again, this is a perfect fit for Luigi's Mansion because his main antagonist has always been King Boo, who is king of the boos. And what happens if Luigi does become a ghost? It's kind of what I want it to feel like. But how are we going to achieve that? By giving him really cool translucence. Once again, similar to Luigi, but we're going to make it a little bit more ghastly, a little bit more blue. We're going to pale the colors down dramatically. With the success of the first Mario movie and now Super Mario Galaxy, do you want to see your own Luigi's Mansion video? As I said, I'm a huge Luigi fan, so I would really think that they're going to follow up with that. Similar to the Luigi style, we are not going to add too many darks. We're really going to allow the translucence to sit through, but we're going to add a heck of a lot more white because we really want to make this thing look ghastly. Once again, finishing up with the whitest white highlights just to make them look even more ghostly, and we're going to call this one complete as we now make them realistic. But we're going to have a bunch of tips for you. You see, the light is actually on the left over here, and the dark side is on the right. So we're going to give you a little bit of a tutorial on reverse highlights. So as you can see here with this Yoshi drawing, light is coming in from the left. It means the brightest spot's going to be right here, right about in the middle of the nose, the upper left part. That's going to be your brightest. But underneath, right here, that's going to be what's called your darkest spot. And just below it is what's called a reflective highlight. Because when light comes from basically all around, when light kind of just shines through an object, as you'll see here in this little tutorial, when light comes down on a three-dimensional object, it has a bright spot right in the middle, usually right above. Then on the bottom, it'll have, once again, the darkest. But below it is where all the light bounces off from the ground back onto the object. So it's not, the darkest isn't at the edge. That's called the reflective highlight. So light will bounce around the object and then hit it on the back end and make it just a little bit highlight. Not as bright, but not as dark as what the darkest dark should be. So now let's apply what you've just learned with his little nose here. We're gonna have the darkest dark, but we're gonna leave just a little bit of space for a natural skin tone to act as the reflective highlight. And then as we work around with our coloring here, it's going to get that nice little bright spot on his nose because the light's coming from the left, and now we have the darkest spot here. And I mean, just look at it, you can pinch his nose. Now, for all of my Luigi fans, and I know that there were a ton of you in the comments, I have to ask you, what is your favorite Luigi game? Is it 1 or 3? I usually find that people are stuck between those. A lot of people don't seem to like the second game, they're usually just torn between the first and the third. So let me know, what was your favorite game, and what was your favorite boss battle in the game specifically? Now this might seem like a really big ask, but if this gets 1,000 likes, I will add Polterpup to this drawing. I think it would just be really cool to see it in the drawing, but that is up to you. If you guys put down the likes, I'll add them in. Now for the coloring of the eye and the rest of this, I went with a very soft gradations. I did not make it very stark, I did not make it very dark, I did not make it actually too light, because I wanted to kind of follow the entire theme of the drawing around. This fabric is very light colored, and because of all the highlights, I really wanted it to make it look like one cohesive thing. And to do that, we can't really add a lot of color pencil work because it's going to pick up all of the texture from the paper, and I don't want to have to smooth that out, and then you'll see this massive color pencil work next to this beautiful smooth alcohol marker. So to do that, I primarily stuck with alcohol markers. This piece was an absolute blast to do, not just because Luigi is one of my favorite characters, but because of the way it came out and all the elements that just make the drawing the drawing. So if you like this, then please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on another one of my drawings, because this one is complete. Let me know what you think, what style did you like the best, and as always, I shall see you all in the next video. Rosalina is finally here. She was one of my most popular requests in a recent poll, and now we draw her in 4 different styles. Let's start off with the cartoon effect. Rosalina was a really unique character to try to do specifically with the cartoon effect, and that's because of the skin tones and the color of her dress. I will admit, I have an incredibly hard time picking out colors. I mean, just look at all the colors that I have to choose from. And that's just not a brag. It's just when I see too many colors, my brain has a hard time kind of differentiating on what colors I need to pick. So then I want to picking something that might be close, but sometimes is completely far off. And that just might be the way my brain works, but whenever I have too many options, I wind up making the wrong option. So did I get the colors correct? Let me know in the comments. There really isn't that much more to say. I just want to make sure that the line art is solid and even throughout. I did, however, miss this little patch right here on the star, so I did add that in, and I decided to punch in just a little bit more of paint pens and a little darker line work here, just to give it a little bit more dimension than what I normally do. Now that we've created her into a cartoon, it's time to tear the drawing up. What we want to do is line up our hand and make it look like we're going to scratch right through the paper. So line your hand up just like this if you want to create this effect at home. Then just kind of draw in the angle of where your fingers are going to lay down, and then you'll have the good general idea of where you want your hands to go. And then you're just going to feather out lightly a little bit of an area in which the hand is going to quote-unquote pull through the paper to achieve this effect. Ultimately, we want this thing to look like it's being ripped apart, like torn paper, as you can see here. And the best part is you just erase away the little bit of area that you scratched away, and now we can basically start. And I'm going to be real with you, it's not because I'm a lazy artist and I don't want to draw a lot of hair.
A bullshit? A bullshit?
One of my favorite things that I like to achieve with all of the effects that I do on my channel is I want them to feel like that anyone can do it. Basically, it requires, not to say a little bit of skill, but more like patience. And basically, you can use any art supply here. So if you want to do paint pens and you want to be really bold and illustrative, go for it. If you want to use alcohol markers like I'm doing here, you want a little bit more flow and texture, go ahead. If all you have is colored pencils, yeah, it'll take you a little bit longer, but you can most certainly do this effect. It doesn't even matter if you have Crayola products. You will be able to get really cool, amazing effects. But speaking of Crayola products, would you like me to try to do all these effects with basic Crayola products, where I just do all the designs but with Crayola, just to showcase that you don't need the best stuff to create the coolest kind of art out there? So let me know, drop that in the comments. We put our hand to the paper and we have the effect complete, as it looks like it's just being scratched right through the paper. And with the torn effect complete, we're going to head on over to Bowzette. Now, I will say I made the unfortunate decision to actually Google search a lot of images and videos, and, well, let's just say I probably shouldn't have. Though Bowzette isn't technically canon, she was created in 2018 by AYYK92. And basically, he dropped this on Twitter, and it kind of exploded throughout the fandom. They loved this concept of Bowser anthropomorphized and gender swapped into a female version. And it would be kind of interesting, how would they include this in a future movie? Because I think it could be something really cool that they could integrate as basically setting strife between Peach. I just think that the fandom would really love to see it, not just for, well, you know, the memes of it all, but just as a good countercultural villain to the Mario series that we haven't really had in a while. Sure, they can go Wario and Waluigi, but, you know, sometimes it's just good to throw a curveball out there, especially for the third movie. So, yeah, hopefully they can do something a little bit different. You know, not to say that wouldn't be excited for Wario, but maybe they'll give us something a little bit different. And if you didn't notice, of course, I'm such a pro YouTuber that I forgot and deleted part of my video footage thinking that it was old footage, and yeah, so we're just going to have to work with the fact that I screwed it up. But now, let's make this thing as realistic and close to the movie as possible. One thing that I am really striving to do with this particular section is I'm going to use the smooth, velvety features that the movie has. A lot of the characters have this porcelain doll quality to them, and that is because of the digital aspect. You can get these incredibly buttery, smooth transitions on computers that would take hours by hand. Minutes is done by digital. It's insane, the quality. So how we're going to achieve this is by using the alcohol markers and treating them like paint. That is the best thing I can suggest if you're struggling with alcohol markers, how to get them to blend, is treat them like paint. In doing so, you're going to be able to blend a lot easier. If you treat them like acrylic paint, they will dry very fast, similar to how acrylic paint does, and you'll be able to work the medium very simply. If you try to treat them like any other medium, then it's going to be really hard for you to kind of get the gist of how they work. Now, I know we're a little bit past halfway through mark of this video, but I do want to give a little bit of a timeout here and talk about two products that are really near and dear to my heart. And the first is my book. I am an author on the first hand, but this is my life's passion. This is my life's work, something that I'm really excited for. So if you want to help out the stream in any way, I will have the link down below for my book. It is something that is really important to me. Also, now I have merch. Yeah, that's right. I'm actually going to have a lot of my prints, but also a lot of my stuff on t-shirts. I just got this cup yesterday, and I am so excited for how this mug came out. The digital representation that is on this mug is so spot on, and I really love it. So these are two ways that if you want to be able to help the stream, and you want to be able to support me, this is the way you can do it. Now let's get back to the video. Now you know me, I don't like hair. It's one of my biggest art, well, you can say faux pas, but it's not really the right word, but it's one of the things that, not to say I struggle with, I just don't like doing. It's very tedious, and I'm not someone that likes to continuously work and rework areas over and over and over again, but I did love the way this hair came out, primarily because I worked in several layers, color pencils and alcohol markers. By using the color pencils as a light layer and then blending them out with light layers of alcohol marker and keep going back and forth, I can get those really smooth blends. And that is another tip, that if you're really struggling with alcohol markers, you can use a very light color over the top of your color pencils and they will blend out even the most stubborn of color pencils. Crayola pencils will blend out with an alcohol marker. It will eat away at the oil plasticky nature and make it smooth and make it be able to blend out just really nice and easy. So if you're struggling, try that tip. I was not a fan of the crown, not at all, and I think that's just because there was very low light. I didn't really find a lot of enhanced images online of the crown. It just didn't really fit, so I didn't make it my focal point of the video. I really wanted the hair and the eye to be that focal point. So if it looks like I didn't put as much time as I normally did, mainly it's because I just want to keep it simple. And there you have it. This video is complete. Which side is your favorite? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good one, guys.
We are going to stop Bowser.
Princess Peach is one of the most popular characters in the Mario franchise, and we draw her today in 8 random styles that I'm going to pull out of this cup. So let's start off with the cotton candy effect. And a huge shout out to Gleb Art, who was the founder of this kind of mysterious style of pulling names out at random. So if you like the artwork that I do, head over to his channel because I think you're absolutely going to love it. Now, let's head on into the video. So in essence, what we want to do is make this look like light, fluffy cotton candy, and we're going to use traditional cotton candy colors, which are going to be neons, pinks, purples, and fuchsia colors. And I know I've repeated this a lot, but every time I think of cotton candy, I think of this.
I'm sticky sweet, stuck in your teeth like cotton candy.
And Beelzebub from Hell of a Boss has the perfect colors for cotton candy. And so does Peach, by the way, when you think about it. First section down, what do you think? Now, we are going to head on over to the X-ray effect. Now, I do X-ray in 2 different styles. One is the cartoon illustrative way, and 2 is a realistic way where you kind of see bones and a lot of a neonish type of effect. This is going to be the simple, clean, cartoon style effect that we kind of know with a lot of the Posca markers and paint pens that are out there. So we're just going to keep it simple and clean and kind of use this as a impromptu cartoon in case we don't actually get the cartoon style. A good tip before you use any kind of acrylic paint pens, do make sure you give them a good shake because that will make sure that the paint gets solid and fluid all throughout before you go on to the next part of the application, which is going to be the white. And now the X-ray effect is complete. Next one we have on is the radioactive effect. This is a new effect for me, and basically what we're trying to achieve is Princess Peach has now stepped into like a 1980s horror situation where she's been doused with a whole bunch of radioactive goo, and now she's become completely radioactive herself. So basically, we're going to just have a lot of yellows, lots of greens, those traditional 80s, 70s radioactive vibes. Once again, it's kind of like doing a horror, but without doing a horror, just in case we don't get horror. So I really wanted to make it more like a radioactive zombie. So let me know, because if this is something you want to continue to see, I actually love the way this came out, because it really does have that cool radioactive feel. Some last minute highlights, and we're going to call this one complete, as once again we head on over, but now we are on the water effect. For this effect, what we want to achieve is those nice beautiful ocean colors, but we want to have it have a nice ripple to it. You can almost call this the ripple effect too, but water just seems a little bit easier. We're not just going to go blues here, we're going to add some greens, we're going to add some dark blues, we're going to add some light blues, and we're going to blend them out. We really want to add the current, and by doing so, we're going to add in the greens curving around the form. That's how we're going to make it look like moving water. It sounds easy in application, but you really have to take into effect all of the forms, so that way it just doesn't get lost into looking like a big blue blob with some random squiggles. With the water effect complete, we are now going to head on to the next one, which is pop art. And pop art is something that I really love. It's bright, it's colorful, it's vivid, uses a lot of high contrasting colors, and with portraits, it's really cool because you can add some blues against yellows and purples against oranges, and it's just, you really make all these really interesting colors juxtaposed to each other, and it's just really cool. If you want to learn more about the pop art style, I do a little bit more of a detailed lore through in some of my other videos, but next up we have the zombie effect, and I was kind of happy to finally get a real horror design. So this one is going to be the longest because I really want to add as much detail, because we really haven't had something that we can kind of sink our teeth into and add a lot of detail. So I really want to take my time and add as much detail as I can. The green and yellows that I will be applying will be very pale. When we think of zombies, they are incredibly pale creatures. We do not want to add any warm values at all. So if they're going to be greens, they're going to be gray greens, they're going to be gray blues. Even the peach that I do add later with the paint pens, it's just for little aspects of tonal, and it's going to be very light because the paint pens will wash away. So they actually dry significantly lighter. The hair, I really want the hair to be frazzled and damaged. I don't want it to be smooth like it is in the movies. And of course, for the eye, I had to add a little bit of blood texture. So let me know if you like this 8 different styles where it's kind of mysterious. Is this something that you like, or do you kind of only like seeing 4 and there's a little bit more detail in each corner piece? I might mix and match, but I do really like this kind of fun, interpretive way. It kind of gives a little bit more of a niche into each style, so let me know what you guys and gals think. Do you like this version, or do you like the old version better? On to the penultimate pick, we have puzzle pieces. And I haven't done this one in a really long time, I don't think, because puzzle pieces is fun. Basically, we're going to break it down into what you would get if you were to break apart this image into little bits of puzzle pieces. I do it one of 2 ways. One, you can make the whole image and then just draw puzzle pieces on top. That's fun, but sometimes what I like to do is imagine the image broken apart into individual puzzle pieces with highlights and shadows being each individual piece. To me, that's a little bit more fun, it's a little bit more artistic. Instead of just drawing the image and then just tracing over random puzzle piece parts, you could do both, whichever you like, and that is the beauty of this kind of style. You can pick and choose however you like to do this style. When you are going to add any of the little lines at the end, you can either go very bold, like I'm going to do here, or you can go with a very fine liner, whichever you prefer, because in essence, it's all about what you think and how you feel about this particular effect. I like to go a little bit thicker just so you can actually see the puzzle pieces a little bit easier and you can see the color shifts. And last up, we have a very new one that we've been doing, and that is Gummy Bear. And that came about with my Luigi video a couple of weeks ago. And I really like the way the Luigi came out, so we're gonna just now make Princess Peach into a gummy bear. How are we going to achieve that? Base layer first. Then we're going to add a little bit of darks here and a little bit of highlights across the whole thing, primarily in colored pencils, and then finish off with a little bit of paint pen, and then we're going to have that perfect highlight with those paint pens. Here's the aforementioned highlights I was talking to you about, but we want to keep it minimal because we only want the brightest spots to show, and then we're going to just add that little bit of shadow all around just to show where the darkest spots are, and we're going to call this thing complete. What is your favorite of these 8 mysterious designs? Let me know in the comment. Thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you all in the next video. In today's video, I'm drawing Princess Daisy in 8 mysteriously different styles. Here are all the styles that we're going to be working with today, and we're going to shuffle them all up. And then we are going to pick our first one, which is grayscale. Now, for those of you who do not know what grayscale is, imagine just taking an image and dulling down the saturation all the way down to all you're going to get is the values or the shades of gray. That is essentially what is grayscale. We're going to make this into a very simple, hyper-realistic, or as realistic as we can get to the movie, in black and white. So I'm going to be using 2 sets of pencils to achieve this, a 2H pencil and a 2B pencil. Yeah, I could push the values a little bit more. I could use some black color pencils or black pastel pencils or even some black markers, but I just decided to keep the smooth transitions as easy as possible by using the 2H and the 2B pencil. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is James and I love transforming all of these different characters in fun and exciting new ways. And if you'd like to see your favorite characters transformed in fun, new, exciting ways, then please do me a favor, smash that like and subscribe button so you never miss out on another video. Now, to really achieve these smooth and crisp blends, I'm using the blending stump here. And basically what that's going to do is push the graphite down through the paper, and it basically acts like a brush where we can brush the textures across, and it gets these nice, smooth transitions. But next, we have cotton candy. The cotton candy effect looks so good on Princess Rosalina and Princess Peach that I had to bring it back a 3rd time for Princess Daisy. But I'm going to be doing a little bit different approach with this particular cotton candy effect in that I'm going to layer down a base layer across the whole thing and then add other values across the top. By just having fun with all the different tones of pinks and purples and fuchsias and greens, that's what kind of gives it that cotton candy color. We can give it that soft, wispy nature that is very reflective in cotton candy. That's basically what we're trying to achieve with this particular style. Keep all the shadows and values the same, but give it like a light wispiness, also using those soft pastel colors. And for our 3rd effect that we have today, we have the gummy bear style. Again, this was a really popular style, so I wanted to bring it back a 3rd time, and I was kind of happy that I got it because it's a very unique color palette with Daisy, and I think it just works incredibly well with her to have this nice, bright, vivid orange as a gummy bear section. And what we're trying to do with the gummy bear effect is basically keep it very minimal with the shading, but we want to produce the roundness of the character and the soft highlights that come with any kind of gummy bear texture. So it's not necessarily metallic because we want it to be soft and translucent. That's why I didn't go with a paint pen. We use alcohol markers because they're very translucent and they layer very well. They have that cool opacity that basically makes it look like almost translucent. If you want to try this effect out for yourself, I highly recommend that you do focus on your edges and making sure that they are dark, so that makes it look like it's really indented to give it that three-dimensional round shape and feature. And for the fourth style, we have X-Ray, and this is the classic X-Ray. So we're going to go with a really simple cartoon color palette and then throw the X-Ray over the top. And it's kind of why I don't, in these 8 Mysteria styles, do a cartoon effect, because it's just simple base coloring, unless I'm transforming into a very specific cartoon like The Simpsons or Family Guy. I'm not really doing that here, so we're just going to go with a simple cartoon color palette and then pop the X-Ray over the top. Very important to make sure that all of your paint pens thoroughly dry before you do another layer over the top. So with all these layers that you're seeing, I waited a good 10 to 15 minutes for the paint to really dry and cure so that they layer easy on top when you do all the details next. And for this next one, we have Void. And for those of you who are not familiar with Void or what this might be, it is my homage to Japanese manga artist Junji Ito and his amazing, incredibly horrific style of drawings that just make you feel like you're pulled into this nightmare realm. His fantasy spirals are just something that are so surreal and incredible and horror without actually having to show gore because it's in black and white. His artwork is breathtaking, and this is what to me truly is a Void and the Void style. So seeing it going forward, let me know if you want to see more of it or less of it.
When the drum beats go, play this.
But now, we are going to continue on with the radioactive style. Again, the radioactive style was a really cool technique that we did in a previous video, and I was happy that we got it again because we got it with one Disney princess. Yes, I said Disney princess. We got it with one Mario princess, so now we're going to bring it back to another Mario princess, and it's basically to have this ghoulification look, almost like what you'd see in the Fallout series, but just a zombie ghoul that's been so crisped with radiation that they've tainted their skin color green, like from an old 1950s sci-fi movie. And I actually like this kind of effect because it's not just changing the color, but it's also changing textures. You're not just making it values, you're also making it seem like, how do we take it and transmorgify it into a little bit of a different, creepier way and creepier textures. Second from the last, we have the realistic. And I was really hoping to get a realistic style at some point because it's been kind of hit and miss. Of all the styles that I put in, I don't put every one of like the 30 or 40 or 50 styles that I have. I try to keep it to about 20 because otherwise I feel like you might never get some of the styles that I really want. And I was actually happy to get realism and showcase a really cool realistic drawing. Normally when you see my realism, I kind of go into detail about all the little subtlety things that I do, and we will do that here. I will say this little section took about half of what the entirety of the rest of the piece took. So this little section took me about 45 minutes to an hour. I was able to crank out 3 of the other sections in about 45 minutes. It just shows you the amount of time that realism takes. It is that much of a stretch. You have to think about so many different things: colors, textures, values, line work, line weight, etc. These aren't just things you take for granted, because if you do, then the piece can fall apart very quickly. We want to always think about values and shades and colors and how they interplay with each other. That's why a lot of times I have test strips of paper off the side and I'm testing how the colors will interact with each other, even with color pencils, so I don't screw up. So I hope that's a really good tip for everyone at home. If you're struggling with realism, do often work with little scrap pieces of paper off to the side just to see how the color pencils and the alcohol markers and the paint pens will work with each other layered on top of each other. The best art tip I can always give is never waste good paper on a mistake. If you're going to know you're going to make a mistake and you're unsure, That's what scrap paper is always for. It's the best thing in the world. Normally, I am not a fan of how any kind of hair designs that I do look, but I was actually very satisfied with Princess Daisy, especially the crown work, because it feels like it doesn't just sit on her head, it feels like it sinks into the hair and becomes one single unit. A lot of times when I put hats and things like that, it feels like it's just floating anomalously on top of the head, and I just don't like that. But this one, I was actually pretty satisfied with how the overall design came out. And for our last and final piece, we have the cracked effect. And what is the cracked effect? Well, this is the design that I came up with, and basically what we wanted to make it look like is Princess Daisy has been cracked. Like she's a piece of marble relief stone, but has been smashed away, and we kind of see through behind the character. And essentially what it is, you're going to color it to as best or as least as your heart desires. And that is the cool thing about this effect that I've said in numerous videos. You can make it cartoony, or you can make it hyper-realistic. That is quintessentially what I want for any style that I like to come up with. You can do as much or as little as you want. For here, I'm going with a semi-realistic blending, but when we add all our nice little cracks in, and then we add a little bit of highlights and shadows, and all these little textures in between, it's going to make it just pop all that more. And again, for the little spiderweb cracks, you can add as many or as little as you'd like. And we are just about out of time with this drawing. I want to say thank you all again so much for stopping by. If you like this, please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Let me know what your favorite style is, and I shall see you all in the next video. We're back with another Mario drawing series, and today we draw Mario and Yoshi in 6 different styles, with Luma added on. But let's start off with the cartoon effect. This will be the last Mario drawing that I do in all of the characters from the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So if you like this and you like to see me transform the characters in fun new ways, then please do me a favor, smash that like button and subscribe button so you never miss out on another video. And for this cartoon effect, we're keeping the colors nice and simple and smooth, with just clean, bold lines to finish everything up, just to make it look like those 80s and 90s Saturday morning cartoons. And with the cartoon effect complete, we are going to move on to a new style, which is called hatched lines. And what is hatched lines? Well, hatched lines are basically, they're closely spaced lines that artists use to create volume, texture, and basic overall shading. Here we're going to use hatched lines basically to color Mario in. We're not necessarily going for values of shade or texture, but we wanted to showcase what hatch lines are and how we can use them. These are a fantastic tool for any young artist to help develop steady hand and also hand-eye coordination. A really good drill to practice on your own if you're having trouble keeping consistent line weight or line pressure, or just having trouble kind of getting the little sketch lines just the way you like, is to do an exercise like this, where you're going to either work on circles or hatch lines or just pulling straight lines. By using a notebook, it really helps give the eye where you need to start and where you need to land. And when you just kind of go through these basic, simple warm-up exercises, they'll really help train your brain with that hand-eye coordination. Next up, we have one we haven't done in a long time, and that is the poison effect. What we try to achieve with the poison effect is to take Yoshi and transform him into a sickly, disease-ridden character. Little putrid, little putrescence added in. But how we're going to achieve that is by basically looking at a lot of in real world poisonous characters, like poisonous tree frogs, and we see how bright and colorful and spotted they are. So we're going to use those elements and bring it into a little bit more of a fantastical sense. Texture is incredibly important for this particular effect, and because it's the character of Yoshi. So what we want to do is use the grain of the paper and use tiny concentric swirls with alcohol markers. Because of how translucent the alcohol markers are, they can build up these really cool layers of this jelly-like structure within the nose and the mouth. And that's how we're going to get that nice poison feel. We want to also work on color because color is key here. We can't just make it a traditional Yoshi color. We want to bring out all the pustules and all the little poisonous colors. So we're going to be adding in all these dots, as you can see here, and that's really going to bring the effect to light. Of course, we have to finish off with vein textures like he's being poisoned and he's being deprived of oxygen and blood flow. This just makes it, once again, that next level poison aesthetic. Up next, we have the pop art style. And pop art's become really popular within the community, so I wanted to bring it back because I think it's a fun way of uplifting what is a simple cartoon effect. And also, I really just wanted to give Illuma their own style. I didn't want to have it kind of go halfway through and then it's going to be part one style, part another style. I really wanted Illuma just to kind of have their own presence in an individualistic style, and I figure pop art is going to be really cool because of all these bright contrasting colors. And then when we add that nice big black border around the edge, it'll be really cool and it'll give a really vibrant brightness to it that's just going to pop right off the page. Just going to add these last minute outlines, and we're going to call this section complete as we head on over to another one I haven't done in a long time, and that's Shattered. Basically, we want to look just like we cracked the page with our fist and we shattered the image. And when you sketch out your shatter, you can do as little or as much as you want. This is a cousin effect to the torn effect that I do. Basically, if you want to add a ton of cracks and you want to add a really big broken section because you're like me and you're a little lazy and you don't feel like drawing everything, well then that's absolutely cool. Go ahead and do so. Or if you want to go with a very minimalistic crack and add a whole bunch of spiderwebs, again, that's really cool and you can do it your own way. That is what I love about these kind of effects. You can kind of make them your own. And as you can see here, I'm doing a semi-realistic coloring. Not too realistic because that's what's going to come up next, and we want to make sure that we don't outshine the realism. And again, as we're going to add these lines in, you can add as much spiderweb crack marks as you want, and also all the little broken bits that we're going to add in, you can do as many of them as you want, but do make sure you add the little bit of highlight. So you're going to see here later on that I'm going to take the paint pens and I'm going to just pop in that little bit of color, and that's going to give all the reflective areas, and it just makes the image come to life in that new way. So when we pop in these highlights, it's all the little reflective bits. But now, let's make this as close to the movie in realism as we can. Now, if you're struggling with realism or trying to make things that next level realistic nature, here's a couple of tips that can help you. One, try working with a medium toned base layer first. So as you can see, when we're coloring Mario in, we're not going with the lightest skin tone, we're going pretty light because we're going to be adding a whole bunch of peaches, browns, yellows, reds, and oranges, and that's going to give us all the colors and textures that we want. Another really important tip is do not just make beige, brown, white, and black for the skin tones. Same thing with the red in the hat. Don't just go red, black, white, and then call it quits. That's going to give a really plastic look, and we want to avoid that as best as we can. We want to add other colors that are somewhat in the spectrum of the color wheel. So when we do the red for the hat, we're going to add little bits of purples and blues in between the blacks and the whites, and that's going to give it that next layer of realism. Whenever we look at anything that has color, there are layers to it that aren't just necessarily what the base tone color is. Another and probably the most final important tip for realism that I can add to everyone at home is take your time when it comes to trying to get those really smooth blends. It's about pressure, but it's also about patience. If you just press really hard because you want a deep saturated color, you're going to get it, but it's going to come at a cost. It's not going to look as smooth. It's going to be very flat and very matted. That works sometimes, but when you're trying to create something that's skin texture, or if you're trying to get the fuzz of a sweater or the fine lines of a hair, that's when you need to build up in layers and layers, and that's when you get that next level realism. We are just about at the 8.5 minute mark, and if you are still with me, then please do me a favor. Once again, if you like the content, hit that like button and subscribe button, because it really means a lot to me. One of the best things and one of my favorite things about this channel is all of the people in the community that reach out in the comments section and tell me their favorite characters or tell me the problems that they have in art, and I try and help them out along the way, and just the response that I get from the community, it really does make the channel worthwhile. So if you are enjoying the content, then please once again do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Now let's finish off the rest of this piece. I absolutely love the way this section of Yoshi came out, and you can just say, well, it's a small piece of his head, but it's about the textures and about the colors that came together, and it just, sometimes when things come together and they work and they fit, it just feels good. Whenever you do something artistic and it just, the things go the way that you want, it just, yeah, there's nothing kind of like it whenever you're creating something, because not only did you create it, but it came out just the way you wanted. This piece has been a long one, but I absolutely am thrilled with the way everything came together. This is probably one of my favorite pieces that I've done on this channel in a really long time, and if you like it, then once again, please do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, but also let me know what was your favorite style. Drop that in the comments, and as always, I shall see you all in the next video. We're back with another episode, and today we're drawing both Mario and Luigi in 8 different styles. Now, as you can see, we have 2 of the styles already done. That's graffiti and drip, but that's because, well, basically I did this as a live stream, and I was already just doing the insignia of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. But we're going to start off today with the cartoon effect. And like I said, this was a live stream that was done about a month ago, and halfway through it, well, my cats were starting to fight, and well, these are them. Yeah, you can see he is a really big boy. I mean, just look how big my hand is next to him. Now, for some of you who are new to the channel, my name is James from Jake Hirsch Art, and I love taking all these different characters and transforming them in fun, new ways. And if you'd like to see your favorite characters transform in fun and unique ways, then please do me a favor and smash that like button so you never miss out on another video. Finishing up with just a little bit of color here on the galaxy sign, and we're going to call this section complete, as we're going to head on over to the second style, and that's going to be the stone effect. And what is the stone effect? Essentially, we want to take Mario and transform him into destroyed, crumbled, cracked stone statue. The cool thing about this particular effect is you can make it as crumbled or as smooth as you want. So if you want to add a couple of crack lines, go in there. If you want to add a little bit of chip and pithing from the stone, go ahead, add that in too. Or if you just want to make it look like a super smooth relief that was just carved by a great master, then leave it that way as well. These styles are entirely up to you. So how we go about actually completing this effect is basically we're going to use about a 2B pencil and use blending stumps. And by using all these different blending stumps, we're going to start from rounding out the areas. So wherever you see the ears or the hat, the brim of the hat, and the hairlines, those are where we're going to actually see the carved indentation into the stone. And then we're going to blend those out into basically small rounded relief features, and that's how we're going to make it look like the carved stone. And because it's a graphite pencil, it once again adds that stone quality texture into the paper. And again, another reason why I really love these kind of styles is because you could take them as realistic or as cartoon as you like. That's the really cool thing about a lot of these art styles that I love to do. But now we're going to do another really cool one, and that is going to be glow effect. If you're struggling with this effect, some tips that can really help is one, I always like to really darken out the entire image first. So that way when we apply this nice black layer across the top, when it completely dries, you'll be able to see all the little lines underneath right here. And that will help you apply the paint pen down without trying to figure out how we basically do it. Now, if you don't have an extra paint pen, here's a little tip that we're going to do later in this part. What we're going to do, instead of using a darker paint pen because we don't have multiple varieties of colors, what we're going to do is take a color pencil and just blend ever so softly around the edges. So when we grab the color pencil here and we just add that little fuzzed highlight around this nice strong paint pen, it gives it that really cool glow. And again, you can blend it out as much or as little as you want. If you just want a little bit of a little glow, then go for it. But if you really want to make it look more like one of those old 1950s neon signs, well then just really brighten it out, then go ahead, you can do that as well. Now you might see some other creators take a white paint pen and give a really thick bold line. I kind of make it look more like a neon tube and just add a small little amount of the white in the middle, so that way it really just has that fluorescent tube resonation to it. For the fifth style, we chose the pixel effect. And basically what we want to do is transform Luigi here into his old NES origin days. We want to make him look like that really cool, iconic pixel art. Except I do things a little bit differently when I do my pixel art. I like to freehand everything. It's a great way to help train your brain and train your eye to see the boxes, but also to just not color in simple boxes. We want to try to always get better at art, and one way to do that is to do these little things that help train your brain and train your eye. I'm going with a little bit more of a thicker outline. That's just because I really want to showcase the effect itself and all the little highlights and also some of the line work that's in this effect. But now we're going to transform Luigi into the drip effect. Now you might be thinking to yourself, wait, I already did the drip effect. No, we want to make him look really dapper. We want to give him all that pimped out clothing. We want to give him that nice cool gold chain, and we're going to make him extra drippy. So we are halfway through this point of the video, and I have an incredibly important question to ask. Who is your favorite character? Is it Mario, Luigi, Bowser, Peach, Toad? Let me know in the comments. I've seen tons of different people say all different types of characters. Even Bowser Jr. I was so shocked to see that there were a lot of Bowser Jr. fans. So I've always been a Luigi and Yoshi kind of guy, but let me know some of your favorite characters. Because maybe I've drawn them, or maybe I haven't. As you can see, I kind of changed up the sketch a little bit. I gave the clothes a little bit looser. I opened up the collar, also had to give him the chain, but I still kept the overall pose the same. So I did have to change the gloves around a little bit too, because once again, I wanted to showcase the style, give him a little bit of fresh flair in there, but we're still going to keep the coloring and the shading overall the same. Now we're going to hit up the little bit of a bling on the chain, and if you've noticed I haven't talked as much in this video, and that's just because allergies have absolutely been killing me. So I've been just trying not to cough every 5 seconds, but we'll get through this video. If you guys have allergies, you know. I didn't go too realistic in this particular section of the face, mainly because we're going to be doing realism next, and I want to make sure that it doesn't kind of outshine the other styles. And speaking of the aforementioned realism, here we go. We have realistic for the last style. I always like leaving realism for the end, mainly because 1, it takes the longest, but 2, it also showcases most of the artistic talent. A lot of the other styles that I do are more creativity, but when you're talking about realism or surrealism or even my horror drawings, that's more of a process, a step-by-step application of color theory, line art, all different types of things, values and shades and colors, etc. You want to make sure that those are all the things that you're thinking about when you're doing realistic art. And that's basically why I kind of wait to the last bit, so I can kind of go over some helpful tips for everyone at home. So here's a really good helpful beginner tip, and that is kind of layer all of your color down first. Don't work section by section. As you can see, I kind of did that a little bit here, but I'm also working in large sections at a time. I don't just finish off the hair and the mustache and then the hat. I get it basically set, and then I work towards the next section. This is because I want to try to develop the whole piece as a piece itself. If you're going to do one big realism, then I would definitely recommend just kind of mapping everything in, getting the basic colors down first. This will help prevent you from all of a sudden drawing an eye and then realizing, oh man, I misplaced it and it needs to be up higher, but now you fully rendered it and you can't change it. Another tip, and this coincides with the first tip, is also work your values as a whole. Don't just highly render the nose and get all your colors down, because then once again, if you might need to change something, augment something, you might make it a little darker, a little bit lighter, it's a lot harder to push and pull colors once they're kind of down on the page. This isn't paint. Color pencils and alcohol markers are a little bit harder to stretch when you're trying to transfer colors. And my last tip, if you are working with alcohol markers, I always recommend using your alcohol markers first and then color pencils over the top in a very soft pressure, as you're seeing as I'm doing with the face here. This will help you basically get those nice smooth blends. If you work very softly with color pencils, you can get incredible blends. This live stream that I did was a blast, and if you want a little bit more in-depth detail about how I went through each of the styles, then go back, hit up the live stream, because I answer a lot of questions, and I also showcase some of my art. So if you have a little bit more of a how-to and how you color, I go through that in a lot more detail in the live. But we're going to call this section complete, and the whole piece is done. What is your favorite section? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you for stopping by, and as always, I'll see you all in the next video.